Hello and welcome back to Duck Nods. I am Ducky, Timu Garantham, or admin results that we have at home. Today, what we're going to be taking a look at is the Colt model of 1917. The Colt model of 1917, or M1917, is a 45 ACP single-action, double-action revolver made by Colt to supplement the number of handguns going to the front lines during World War I. As the war in Europe progressed and more Americans were being sent to the front lines, the need for more handguns became pretty apparent. A man named General Pershing made it his personal goal to put a handgun in the hands of every single troop that he sent overseas, and that need was simply not being filled with the handgun that was currently being issued. The handgun in question happened to be the Colt 1911. Some of you, myself included, might be thinking that arming soldiers with a single-action, double-action revolver when there was already a semi-automatic handgun being issued is kind of a step backwards, but that's not how the Army saw it. The need for soldiers to have some sort of secondary weapon as a backup to their rifle was more important to the Army than simply getting them the best equipment possible. You're going to see that's kind of a recurring theme if you look through arms development and kind of the history of the weapons that have been adopted by not just the US military, but militaries in general. So doing just a quick comparison, as for size, the Colt 1917 is substantially heavier than a 1911, holds 6 rounds in the cylinder, and is fed by 3-round 45 ACP moon clips that engage the little extractor in the cylinder. 1911, on the other hand, 7+1. Comparing this to the 1917 is like comparing apples to oranges. They are two completely different things, completely different platforms. Only thing these two pistols have in common is their caliber and their ability to put nearly half-inch holes in somebody not wearing the same uniform as you. So to make a long, pretty boring history short, the Army wanted more pistols. Colt could provide them more pistols, just not more 1911. Smith & Wesson also bid and won on the same contract, and they produced the Smith & Wesson model of 1917. If you'd like to see a detailed breakdown of that pistol, including its history and procurement process, Ian over at Forgotten Weapons does a great job breaking the whole thing down and making it sound even slightly interesting. All right, so we're gonna take a slightly closer look and just go over some of the features and markings and why I think they're cool or why maybe I don't like them. Beginning up at the muzzle, I am not entirely sure if this is the original front sight blades, kind of shark fin shaped, and the finish is definitely different. I'm not sure if that was made to just make it matte and easier to see, or if that's something that somebody did later on down the line. I don't know. I don't feel like looking at reference pictures. Up at the front, 0.45-inch hole, no target crowning, not a huge surprise for a military issued pistol. Moving down the left side of the barrel, you have Colt double action 45 on the top, Colt manufacturing Hartford, Connecticut, patent number, all that fun stuff. Moving back along the top strap, you have your standard gutter sights, and then behind that, stainless steel, I believe, hammer that's just starting to show a little bit of age after just over 100 years. Moving back down, you have your walnut, I think they're walnut grips, your little pink pony club mark on the side of the receiver, frame, whatever you want to call it, little proof mark up here, cylinder release, nicely blued trigger that is showing absolutely no signs of age. Flipping the revolver over and going to the underside, you have your US Army markings, including a serial number and your lanyard loop. The only little bit of damage on this pistol after over a century is a tiny chip out of this little grip here. Right side of the pistol, not too much to report. Parkerized finish might have had a little bit of sanding at some point, potentially refinished. I'm not entirely sure. I've never seen a pristine example, so I don't really have much reference to work off of. Going over manual of arms really quick. Standard Colt cylinder release. Pull back on this little knob here. Flip the cylinder out to the left. This pistol does not have any kind of hammer block or any sort of transfer bar within the hammer. Only safety feature is the cylinder is locked once the hammer is back. So continuing on with manual of arms, 45 ACP is not a rimmed cartridge. How in the hell do you shoot it out of a revolver? Well, lucky for you, the Army kind of thought through that, and instead of remanufacturing 45 ACP to be a rimmed cartridge, which was discussed and I think maybe done at least a little bit, they decided to just issue these pistols with 3-round 45 ACP moon clips. So you load 3 rounds in your moon clip, put 2 of those moon clips in the cylinder, close it up, rock and roll for 6 rounds, open it up, and then you can eject those 6 rounds that way. If you don't want to use moon clips, you don't have to. You're simply not just going to be able to eject the rounds quickly, and you're going to have to pry them out with your fingernail one at a time. For everyone's peace of mind, these are dummy rounds, but your standard Colt revolver, cylinder rotates clockwise. Going over the trigger press real quick, single action is incredibly smooth. No take up whatsoever. Brakes at just about 4.5, maybe 5 pounds. A little bit of pressure, breaks like a glass rod.
Double action trigger is a little bit long and heavy for me, but it is very, very consistent. It is not the easiest thing to shoot double action, especially not quickly, but that's really not what this was designed to do. This is really made for, oh shit, my 03 is out of ammo. I need to pull something out to plug this guy real quick. Squeeze off 6 rounds, and rather than reload this, at that point, you're probably just gonna reload your rifle and get back to work. But enough of the boring stuff. I'm gonna take this outside and run a few drills with it and see if maybe I changed my mind.
You've listened to me drone on about this pistol for the last few minutes, and as a reward, we're going to put a few rounds through it and see how it stacks up against its counterpart, the 1911. All right, so we're loaded up with 6 rounds of 45 ACP. Don't have any moon clips, so they're just free balling in there. We're just going to do a real quick double action bill drill and try and get 6 rounds in a C-zone target at about 5 yards. Also, I don't have a shot timer, so I'm going to put that little beep in there in post.
Beep.
All right, I totally fucked that one up. I'm still trying to get used to the double action pull on this thing, so I reloaded another 6 rounds, and we're going to try that again. Gee. This is why I use clips. God damn. That was stuck. Now for comparison, I have 1911, another 6 rounds, 45 ACP. See if I can do it maybe a little bit faster. Trying not to bite the piss out of my hand. Same thing, low ready. I have a holster for this, but I do not want to scratch up the finish. I'd say it's a little faster. All right, the next modern drill that we're going to try with this thing is the Mozambique, or failure to stop, if you feel like being politically correct. So what that is 2 shots to the torso and 1 shot to the head. I don't have actual IPSC targets, so I made my closest approximation out of cardboard and masking tape, but should still be all right. License and registration! Head. I don't know you, that's my purse! Damn, I knocked the target over. Fuck! Yeah, I gripped that sucker a little bit too high. Same exact spot. Now, we truly couldn't take advantage of having both of these pistols present if we didn't at least try and shoot both of them at the same time. I'm going to put the 1917 in my strong hand because that trigger is long. So we can do this lefty. Slaying the Hun in 3, 2. Trench cleared.
Overall impressions after shooting it. For a service revolver, it performs pretty damn well. It points really easily. The single action trigger is incredibly crisp. It's pretty easy to put shots exactly where you want them, especially after you get used to the difference between the rear trench gutter sight and this big old shark fin on the front. The sight picture is a little bit goofy. You kind of have to lollipop it, if you know what I mean. But after a box or two, you get it figured out pretty easily. The double action trigger is not my favorite. It is smooth, it is consistent, but it is long. That trigger pull is real long. This is not something you're gonna be shooting for speed, obviously. As far as running the pistol itself, it's not fast, it's not flashy. This is not the end all be all. This is not something you're gonna use to, go win the next war, and definitely not go win the Great War. This is really just cool in the historical context in which it was produced. When compared to technically its predecessor, I mean, it's not even close. You can run a 1911 faster. I can personally shoot it more accurately, and you can sure as hell reload the thing faster. So as much as I love the thing, there is a reason that we stopped issuing it to troops after the First World War. Now, it did remain in circulation within arms rooms in the U.S. Army for decades and decades, and I think the last one was finally retired from service sometime in the 1990s, which is insane, because the second that this thing was introduced, it was already obsolete. But after the First World War, it became pretty apparent that the future was going to be semi-automatic. The United States Army would continue to use the 1911 for decades to come until it was eventually replaced by the Beretta M9. As far as the M1917, it still holds a very special place in my heart, but for me, it holds a lot more value as a piece of history that goes bang and puts holes in stuff rather than something that I would use for self-defense. If you've stuck around this long, thank you. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All that stuff helps out the channel immensely. We're going to be doing a lot more of these long-form videos coming up, so stay tuned, stay safe, and stay classy.